All right. Hello and welcome along to episode 8 of Lifting in Life. This is take 2 for us. We're lucky enough to have Ash Cameron on board. She is a local Wellington personal trainer and group fit instructor. I'll just hand it straight on to you, Ash, if you want to let us know who you are now and what you do, what your day-to-day looks like.
Kia ora te whānau. My name is Ash Cameron, I guess full name Ashley Cameron. I'm currently working at Les Mills Lambton Quay. I'm working in the sales space there, so getting people on board, joining the gym. I have spent, though, the last 5 years as a personal trainer here and also a group fitness instructor doing the Les Mills programs as well. So, love it.
That's cool that you're in the sales space. I didn't realise that you've transitioned there. Is that a recent thing or...?
Yeah, it's fairly recent. So I've just been doing this for the last 6 months now, actually. So since pretty much the start of this year, end of last year, made a little bit of a change up.
Oh, wow. So
is that following like the whole sort of switch around that was obviously, I guess, forced throughout the pandemic? Like obviously a lot of people had to sort of coordinate their role to find something sort of, different substances from different places, making sure that they could still fill that space.
Yeah, totally bang on. So, I've definitely done a lot of learning over the past couple of years, and part of those learnings was that I hadn't actually quite set myself up with the best sort of template, I guess you could say, for my personal training business and just the hours and balance that I was getting with life and work. So I decided that I needed to have a break from trying to look after everybody else and have a little bit of time of trying to look after myself and focus on what I am then able to be able to, gain from these kind of skills to be able to then carry on personal training or something else in that space. But currently still able to channel my, helping others sort of things that I love doing by doing group fitness through the Les Mills classes and things.
it's probably actually an interesting point to start, although we want to dive into how you first started in the gym and stuff like that. The whole lockdown period, because that's when I decided to leave personal training, was the first lockdown. After that,
I quit my job, I think, after the first lockdown.
I transitioned into the office job at Xero and stuff. How did you find that first lockdown, which is over a couple of years ago now, and what has life looked like for you since then? I imagine it probably hasn't been easy or smooth sailing. What were your first thoughts in that first lockdown, and how did you respond to that?
Well, I guess it's just a part of history now. We were living something totally unprecedented in the world that it's never experienced before, and that's totally what it felt like.
Yep.
Like, what is this? It turned in from thinking it's just going to be this long, and then all the uncertainty. So it was definitely sort of a different time. That first lockdown, and just kind of what do you do without the structures of the society that we're used to living in, and where our direction is, and how you can then change things up or innovate your job or your role in society as well. So it was just a lot of and that again started with what my daily routine was going to be, and then how I approached reaching out to what was all my clients and my business at the time.
There's some important context there, right, is that if you're not training clients, you're not getting paid. It's not a employee structure. It's like a contracting structure. So the whole income side of it must have been quite uncertain and quite a interesting thing to figure out, the online training and how did you adapt to that?
Well, I kind of just did, and because I was really unsure about doing things in that online space because I hadn't done anything there before, I just kind of relied heavily on social media, so Facebook, and that became, such a main point of being able to connect with others from then on in, and everybody was just finding themselves in the same boat, which was good. To be able to reach out and find those, people in the same situation. But for me, it was a totally different, I'm such a I'm a hands-on real, PT kind of person. So it was, frustrating.
Yeah, did you find it kind of insulated you, I guess, from that intimacy you can get from engaging with people, you know?
Oh, 100%. And like, you know, when you're trying to, like in an online session, you know, when you're trying to get people to do different exercises and things, you're like, you know, and then the camera's here and like, you're
Trying
like,
to stay in the shot. Yeah.
And like, oh, I'm down a little bit and like, oh yeah, it's just, it was challenging, that's for sure. And then you're like, why is it this challenging, you know?
I can imagine it's a real vacuum for your energy as well. Like when you're giving a personal training session in person, obviously you've been doing it as long as you have, and it's second nature and it's this intimate part of who you are. And suddenly you've got this kind of, you're still doing that, but at the same time you have to be like, okay, in the back of your mind, shit, is the technology working? Is the camera there? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not that free fluid flow the way that you would get from an in-person
How's
session.
the Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
Definitely found that I needed to invest in some earbuds or AirPods, that's what they're called. Just they were the best thing for online sessions, 100%.
One thing that I found, because I was still training a few people during that first lockdown, is the adherence for people I found just dropped off dramatically. Understandably so. It's a stressful, weird kind of time. How did you find that people... Yeah, how well did they adhere, and did they still stick around? Did you lose a bit of business, or like how did you find that side of things?
Well, I definitely didn't pressure people into like a personal training, like kind of weekly catch-up kind of space. What I did was I just decided that, like, you know, everyone's dealing with their own circumstances at the moment, and like it was such a mental game being at home. And, you know, I don't have kids or anything, but that's a lot. Like, it's a whole nother responsibility issue. So I knew people each had their own thing. So what I decided to do was just to have a Facebook group where obviously I could connect with everybody and just put out like weekly, maybe it was every third day, I think, a workout for people to do, just so they had something to go by. And then they could contribute if they wanted to in terms of like monetary value, or if they wanted me to draw them up a program or do like a session, we totally did that as well. But it was completely like on their terms if they wanted extra, or if, you know, and I definitely, there was probably only a handful of people that really wanted that like one-on-one time. But everyone really, really appreciated, you know, still being able to connect and have access to other people on a platform at the time. And then also actually did like we did like, you know, live sessions in the lounge, which I can't even believe. Like I look back at the memories on Facebook, I'm like, oh my God, live in the lounge. I can't believe that was even a thing.
What was the model of that?
But it was great.
What was the model of that? Was it kind of like you had an audience that we're all sort of doing it in the lounge, and you were obviously doing it in yours with a camera, and they were just sort of following it, right?
That sounds like fun.
That's pretty awesome. You got to adapt.
Fun and games. Yeah, exactly. Just push the couch out of the way. Set up the camera, and then just go live. It was such a novelty at the time.
Sounds fun.
Did you find, like, one of the things I found that sprouted up was, you know, and obviously acknowledging that New Zealand had a far lighter lockdown experience than a lot of other countries did. Like, I'm in Melbourne, for example, and they just got, you know, Victoria in general got absolutely hammered for a good solid 2 years or so. Did you find, though, that I felt like when we went into the first lockdown, there was kind of a bit of a honeymoon period. You know, everyone was like baking bread and getting into a new running routine and stuff like that. Once we sort of started hitting the 3-week mark, mental health just started deteriorating. And as far as like personal training relationships go, Cam, I think I remember reaching out to you a couple of times and being like, man, this is just rough. Did you find that like the relationship with your clients started to, I guess, transition and evolve a bit, and that they may have even gone as far as using you as a bit of a counselling entity because they were finding the time really difficult?
Oh, yeah, it was definitely like I was 100% there to provide options or like support for movement. But like, you know, you spend so much time with your clients anyway on like a weekly basis. Like it was just a really, really a way to keep some kind of normality as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and keep that kind of connection there and that like regular contact, which I think was the key part of like just trying to stay in touch with people, because that kind of really helped on the mental health side of things, like knowing that other people were there or just dealing with, you know, similar things. Yeah,
and just having something normal in your day to day that feels normal. That kind I started to think of them as kind of like pivot points. Just something that you could feel like, you couldn't go out for a coffee like you normally would in a cafe, but having something like an engagement with someone. But then at the same time, it was strange because even your normal moments were, it was like a sort of diluted version of your normal moments. Like chatting to someone, for example, was laminated. You were insulated from them via, the online model. As far as exercising goes, that made it, I remember feeling like I had to really draw on my own resources to create my own energy, to push myself, because I didn't have that someone in the gym doing something and I'm like, oh shit, I need to be doing that as, you know what I mean? Like that sort of buzz you get from seeing others work hard.
100%. From a group fitness instructor. Yeah. I'm all about that group effect.
And there's also sort of coupled with that was a separation of environment, right? Like when you're at home, that's kind of the relaxing place and like you're just chilling out, but then you take yourself to the gym to do the exercise, and that's the space when you're in for an hour or 2 hours, whatever it is, to be able to exercise and, do those things for yourself versus if you're at home all the time. There isn't that separation.
And the gym was a lot bigger than my home.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like it's 1 bedroom flat, like apartment, oh my gosh, I can set up this workout in this lounge.
Right. I reckon it'd be a cool time to sort of delve into further back in your journey and sort of, I suppose it'd be cool to understand what got you into the gym just personally, before you started your personal training, and then gradually talk through what went through your mind to turn it more into a business sort of opportunity and follow that passion and turn it into a profession. So what got you into the gym to start off with?
I got a job on reception
Nice.
Because my mum is a personal trainer. And she, no longer personal training, but she was a personal trainer at Les Mills, Wellington. And I decided to come down and, I wasn't living with mum, but I was like, oh, mum's in Wellington. I'll go down to Wellington and go to uni down here, and things like that. And so she got me an interview first and then a job on reception at the gym. And because my mum had always been like a PT/group fitness instructor, going to the gym and dragging me and my sister along to creche and things like that, I never wanted to be at the gym. Ever.
How ironic. Yeah.
I was like, I'd never had a gym workout pretty much in my whole life. I'd gotten up and done like a body jam track because she taught group fitness, every now and then. But like, I was like, oh my God, that's mum's thing. I don't want to do that. And then I got a job there. So I had to, learn to do the classes, you learn about the product, what is Les Mills and everything about the place and things like that. And just slowly started to, get a connection with exercise and my body and movement. And I found that I really liked it.
It's quite interesting that it was the profession that took you into it first. I would almost assume that you would have been real into the gym and then turned it into a job, but it's almost like it worked in reverse. Like getting a job there sort of stimulated that interest in it.
Yeah, I wouldn't, so I'm very grateful to even have got like a foot in the door, sort of a job here. And I've, in terms of my fitness journey, it's very much been a Les Mills journey. I spent most of my time here, because initially, because I was so I don't want to go to the gym. A lot of that was to do with growing up, I was a very tall person, very uncoordinated and quite self-conscious. And so I really didn't want to put myself out there in terms of going to a gym environment, especially when my mum knew everything about what to do. And I knew very, very, very little.
Was it almost, because I know your mum and I know how well known she is too. Did you almost feel like a,
I know your mum, that sounds
I know your mum. Yeah.
Okay.
Was there at any point, did you feel any sense of pressure or anything to be something in the gym when you got a job there? Because people would know, that you're her daughter and how well known she is in the scene. Was there any sense of pressure for you to get into it or something to live up to when you started getting into the gym and doing the group fit stuff? And
I don't think I felt any pressure to do so, just because we were originally from New Plymouth and had come down to Wellington. But I definitely felt pressure to kind of know about the gym, you know, and just like, and I had absolutely no clue about the gym, let alone any, you know, the class. And so I stayed in the classes, and that was kind of like my safe space of learning how to do things in the gym.
And did that pressure sort of come from the fact that, you know, as you said, you were working on reception, and I guess a lot of people would have been asking you questions, right? And you sort of had to know, shit, I need to actually know the answer to this. You know, this isn't just an after-school job. This is I've got to know what product I'm selling here.
You're asking me?
Yeah. Let me just get my bum.
Yeah, exactly. One moment, please. And she mainly worked at the Taranaki Street Gym, and I mainly worked at the Terrace Gym, so it was a lot smaller and a lot more like localized and things like that, which was ideally was awesome, because still I was very, very like self-conscious, you know, didn't like to talk too much, and so it was such a growth journey, like being on reception as well, because you've got to be, you know, that person that people see when they first come to the gym, and I guess I got really comfortable in that space, and then and that really, really helped my confidence as well.
So was there a particular kind of, I guess, breakthrough moment where you sort of suddenly felt like, yeah, this is my environment now, these are my people, or was it just a transition over sort of a prolonged period?
Probably when I decided to, I was like, I want to do reception full time and not do university anymore. That's a big one.
So you dropped out of uni and then went full time at the gym? Mm-hmm. What were you studying at uni at the time?
Yeah. I was studying earth science and history.
That's quite a different topic to the gym
right?
environment.
Yeah. I'm definitely interested in a lot of things, and I think that was where I was kind of like, I like this, and I like this, and I don't really know what I want to focus on. But what I did find was that, like, at university, the things that I was studying was very sort of solo and
isolating.
like, you know, very like and it was like, I love rocks, but I don't want to only talk to the rocks, you know. What I was finding is that I was picking up so much more confidence, you know, working in an environment with lots more people. And I was like, actually, I love people. I want to work with people way more. So yeah, I decided to do full time at the gym.
It's they're kind of like two exact opposites, really, aren't they? Like an inanimate rock that doesn't do anything versus a very charismatic, energetic environment that's you know, people buzzing about and doing their thing.
What was that next step from going from full time on reception to then taking classes and also personal training? Because I see you now, you're like deadlifting like 100 kgs and stuff. So obviously there was over time you gained some more confidence and then started on the weights floor, then also started group fitness instructing. So what was that next step from you being full-time on reception? What did your journey look like after that?
So I did a little bit of work in our events and communications team. And so that kind of freed me up, not so much being on the desk. I got to kind of, I guess, connect with the different departments in the gym, and then also have different working hours. So I really got to get like a proper schedule and time to, like, you know, and that's when I've suddenly been like, oh, I can do my own exercise too now, you know. And you get like friends at the gym and you start doing things, and then people are like, oh, you should try teaching this program, you know, kind of a thing. And that's literally how it goes. Somebody just goes, well, for me, it was that, because I was still not in that quite, you know, confident space. Was like, oh, you know, you should think about teaching cycle was my first one. And I was like, oh,
Maybe,
really?
yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, me? So that was like the kind of the big bit. And then from then on, it was just like, what do I have to do to be better at cycle?
That speaks volumes about being in the right positive environment. You know what I mean? Like, and how it can really nourish those opportunities for you.
Yeah, and
no, 100%. Like, and Les Mills is not the most, you know, comfortable environment. It's like overstimulating the moment you walk in. Like, it's full on, and there's so many people and things like that. So, but yeah, I love it. You can get so much out of it as well.
Yeah, we talked about that before as well, haven't we, Cam? That sort of when you're new to the environment and the energy it takes from you as well, like, because you're spending so much time being consumed by this thought of, do I fit in here? Do I actually, is this where I'm meant to be? And everyone is beaming with confidence, and you're just like kind of shrinking a little bit, like, oh, I just don't know. But the idea that you kind of adapt to that environment, and then that environment, once you created your own confidence, started giving you opportunities. That's really awesome.
Which, massive side tangent now, I totally bring that back to me inviting other people into the gym on a very novice level. And a lot of people at the moment are just coming back to the gym, maybe after 2 years away. And a lot of getting into the gym, and I've really found, is it's not what you're doing here. It's just about packing your bag and mentally setting time in the day to actually get your ass to the gym and walking in the doors. And even if you only just do 20 minutes on the treadmill,
it's so interesting you talk about that, because we've spoken about that before. When you have people who are nervous to come to the gym, it's so spot on what you're saying. It's about building that routine to just going in the doors, right? Especially somewhere like Les Mills, like you say, it's sort of full on, and it'd be quite intimidating for people.
It's everything else that goes around after the exercise.
So what would be your strategy when you have a client who comes to you and they're a little bit apprehensive? Is that the kind of advice that you would give them, just to sort of come in and just do what you can? How would you set them up for success?
Oh yeah, 100%. What is realistically achievable? And I've even had trialists of the gym lately, and one lady was like, "Oh, I've only made it in once over the last couple of days." I'm like, "That's fine, over the 7 days, it's just about getting in 3 times." What you do here, it's not super important, because there's heaps for you to do here. It's about coming in first and giving yourself that opportunity to then be able to do those things. And it all starts with just one step. So what's achievable for you and realistic, and then just building up from there. 1 visit becomes 2 visits, 2 visits becomes 3, and then you just consistently
celebrating
try and build
those,
that up.
That expectation.
I was just going to say, and celebrating those micro wins is so important, because it helps with the adherence, right? And having success in one session, that's awesome, I came to the gym and went on the treadmill, that's a win. Not being like, oh, my whole month I need to go 20 times, because it seems so big. It's about having success in each session, because achieving those small goals,
100%. I actually liken it. I use my niece for inspiration, and she often will do something, and then she'll be like, "I did it," and look to you, and then she claps and stuff, and I'm like, we all need to do that a lot more, celebrate those little things and clap for ourselves. So I kind of, in cycle and things like that, I try and encourage people to clap for themselves. I call it a high five for yourself, because you're literally kind of congratulating yourself on getting to the gym. And the only unfortunate thing is that, you can't expect other people, it feels so good when other people clap for you, but you really can't expect other people to do that for you, so you have to be comfortable doing it for yourself.
Yeah, and a critical part of doing that you sort of spoke about before was expectation management. When I first started, I remember I had a coffee with Cam, and he was basically just asking me, what is it that you sort of want to achieve from this? I can't even really remember my answer, but I remember it was pretty scattered. You're not really sure. And then just having that preliminary conversation and knowing that you can measure success even just off, as you say, just getting there, and creating that positive sort of habit, and then once you've got that expectation in the right place, you're going to be in a far better position to give yourself that self-applause, because you're going to know that you actually earned it. Not falling into a trap of thinking, I'm not doing enough, which is something that always plagues me, and I always have to pull it back. No, you are.
And that's why if you are set up on a plan that sets you up for success, right? In 7 days, you come in twice and that's awesome. Well, you came in 3 times, you're overachieving. Not you come in 4 times and you came in 3 times. It's just like you say, the expectation management, right?
In business, they call it, what is it? Under promise and over deliver.
Yeah, that's the classic.
But you're setting yourself up for them good dopamine hits if you've got that benchmark on the go, you know?
Yeah.
So after
Dopamine.
your group fitness, back to your group fitness stuff, spin or cycle was your first thing that you got into. What did it look like after that? At what point did you become the one-on-one sort of personal trainer, and what was your learning journey like to become PT?
Well, so the world of cycle took me to then take on another program, which was our HIT program, which is GRIT, slash the best HIT program in the world.
We'll have a little ad that pops up there once we've got that in post-production.
5 free sessions.
Big GRIT fan. Yeah, and that really introduced me to the weight side of things. And so I, did lots of group fitness through that stuff.
So Ash, just for background for the audience, do you want to just briefly explain what GRIT is?
Oh, yes. GRIT is Les Mills high intensity interval training program, so 30 minutes. And they've got 3 sort of disciplines in that space, which is strength, cardio, and another version, which is athletic. I'm using barbell, weight plates, and just body
Nice.
weight.
So just high intensity, sort of employing all the different styles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, go for it. But it wasn't, and I was loving all of that, like group fitness space. And then actually I got restructured out of my job at Les Mills.
Right, well,
and
was that the first?
And I didn't want to leave Les Mills.
Sort of significant barrier that you faced in your Les Mills journey? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I was like, what am I going to do now? Because I don't want to go back to reception, you know? So I was going to have to do something else. And during group fitness, probably every class, somebody will come up to you and go, hey, do you do PT? You know? And I'd be like, no. I don't. My mum does. And so I was like, you know what? And a lot of the time, and by that point, I had built myself up to be like, okay, that is something my mum does. I don't know anything about PT. I know group fitness, you know? And actually, I had a chat to the personal training manager at the time, who is Brett Turnage at Les Mills, Taranaki Street, about that. And I was like, how am I going to do PT? He's like, you'd make a great personal trainer, you know? And I was like, how the hell would I do PT? I don't know shit about, I know how to grit. And he's like, well, you know what? Like, it's actually, we've got courses available through Skills Active. He's actually an assessor. And, you know, here's an idea, like, you know, as a personal trainer, like, your job is actually to keep learning. And like there is like literally nobody that knows everything about personal training, and they're discovering new things and new ways about doing things every day in that like movement space. And at the time I was like,
kind of makes sense.
It's funny how that's never your default.
Really?
It's funny how that's never your default, is it? As a human, like that's absolutely true, but your inner self-critic prevents you from that ever being the default. Like the moment you're trying something that might be just a little bit outside your comfort zone, you immediately have this perception that everyone else that's doing this now is already a professional and I'm a complete amateur and I don't know anything about it. And then suddenly someone says something to you like, well, no, actually, we're all still learning. We all, as you say, don't know shit, and we're all learning this shit together. But you never default to that, which is frustrating, you know? It's sort of your, I guess, a combination of your inner critic, maybe a bit of insecurity, whatever, sort of deploying its thinking over your perception of things. But you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's always there, like
100%. Yeah.
Shut up, man. But yeah, that's why I was just like, oh, that was a massive moment. Like, oh, like it's actually your part of your job to like keep learning about the body, and the body is always like teaching us things anyway. So yeah, I was like, okay, let's do it. So I started up doing the course through Les Mills under Brett. And yeah, became a gym instructor, which a thing of the past, unfortunately, at Les Mills.
Yeah.
So I loved being a Jimmy. Favourite role.
You said the thing of the past was this, because I know following COVID they had to sort of cut down? Was that a particular role that got cut down? Was it following?
Yeah. So they used to have gym floor staff that would be able to look after people, I don't know, equipment, basic sessions and things like that on the gym floor. And it was a really great opportunity for those people who were perhaps learning or very new to that stuff to really,
It acted as a good sort of bridging role, right?
Straps or whatever.
Especially there's so many people who they might have even been qualified personal trainers, but still didn't quite have that confidence to step into the contracting role. But so the gym instructor role offered a really good stepping stone into being able to do something like that.
And that's completely gone
and
now.
just give you that presence. Yeah, it was like a way to be like on the gym floor, really have that presence and make connections with people before maybe taking on people as clients.
Yeah, that's a shame.
paying
I
and things.
completely understand given the environment, and you've got to kind of, make your business model survivable. But that must have been a really good mechanism for also, because part of your role, I could imagine, would be to spot people that look like, look, this guy's trying to do bench press on the completely wrong machine. Let's go and have a conversation and make them feel more comfortable and stuff.
Yeah, that was, pretty much one of our jobs is just like, maintaining safety and, standards on the gym floor and things. And I've definitely brought that up at our latest, staff meeting. This is just, there's so many new people coming on board at the moment as well. They want to look after themselves, but they just don't know where to start. And we just, there's a bit of a gap there. But they did say that actually they're working on a new onboarding process for new members now, and that's being trialled at one of the clubs, I think, up in Auckland. So hopefully we might be able to implement some of those things.
You're a gym instructor. Did you find that kind of gave you a good confidence boost into becoming a personal trainer? And also, I guess the second part to that is, did it make you start to think about what you wanted to be as a personal trainer? Because obviously I think it's super clear who you are as a personal trainer now. You got heaps of energy, you're really welcoming and you're really nice. And what was that time in terms of the gym instructor and crafting your brand as a personal trainer?
So I was just like, I love being, it was pretty much reception on the gym floor, and it's a really unintimidating environment for myself and just gym instructing in general because, you get to provide that help without asking for that monetary return, kind of
People
thing.
smell that. They know when that's your motivation.
So there's absolutely people know your intentions are, you're fine. You're just there to help. And so I was just like, I love that stuff anyway. I'm paid to help anyway. So I've just got out there and pretty much just try, part of our thing at Les Mills is you create the vibe, and just bring that sort of, energy onto the floor as well, and just really welcoming sort of an environment. So just always hello, get to know the people on the floor, get to know the members, and it's just about creating that community as well.
That's such a good point about
I love that
offering something without any expectations of things in return, because it is a good strategy if you're a personal trainer to obviously give out free advice on the gym floor. But I always found that if I was to do that, I would always do it when I was training myself, not in a personal training outfit or anything, and not even mention that you're a personal trainer necessarily, because it feels like you're selling them something, or it feels like you would make them feel as if you were trying to get money out of them. Yeah.
People are like,
what's your real agenda by coming over here?
And part of that relationship
and I'd
is
feel
trust. If you can sense that, the trust is just not going to be there.
Yeah, so it was lovely. It was an awesome way just to be really open and try and help people that needed it at the time. And so just got really used to what I found in that space is, in a kind of from when you're learning about PT things and the body and stuff like that, and then actually coming into practical environment is like, wow, people it looks good on paper, but and then especially down our sort of business corporate end of town, people really can't move very well. And just the different ways and regressions and exercises and things, and you know what, maybe a squat's not good for everyone. and just being able to like, you know, different ways to prescribe different exercises and who that's really going to be sort of beneficial for.
Yeah, you must have a lot of clients that are really trying to, oh shit, I was one of them at one point, like slip in that sort of cheeky workout while they're still at work, you know, and during the lunch break, you know, come in a shirt and tie, quickly strip into the active wears and then back into the shirt and tie before they take off.
Yeah.
And so that kind of the whole welcoming, you know, making reception on the gym floor kind of vibe as a Jimmy, was that also your sort of strategy going into personal training as well, just to be that welcoming, charismatic face for people too? Did you sort of have a set strategy going into PT, or you kind of just bridge the gap from Jimmy into PT?
I definitely
I feel
didn't
like
have
that's
a
more
strategy.
common than not, right?
Yeah, I think people these days are actually really good, and they because what we found at the time is like we had a great sort of group of personal trainers here, and our PT manager at the time, Dan Payne, was like, okay, like, you know, the baby PTs, like, your job is to go and catch up with 3 of our like senior PTs and, you know, soak up some knowledge from them, basically. And that was a really great thing to be able to do. And like and that's probably how I've gained a lot of the knowledge that I do have. And that's just from asking people and like learning from our in-house sessions and things like that. But anyway, the first person that I talked to, he was like, okay, all you really want to do to get started is just like fill your calendar. Or like, you know, figure out how many sessions you got in the week or whatever and fill it up.
Simple.
And I was like, okay, I can do that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, so that was my strategy. Like, and so in hindsight, like, that definitely isn't isn't the best way to go about it. And for me, like, I didn't have an issue filling my calendar. Like, you know, I was on the gym floor, like, hey, you want a session? You want a session? Like, you know, kind of a thing. It's actually more along the lines of what I was hesitant about before becoming PT, and that's like, what the hell am I actually doing with these people? You know, kind of a thing. So I definitely, you know, on reflection, needed to have a little more strategy.
Did you also find actually, I think I remember asking you this as well, Cam, like the administration side of it, like managing, you know, okay, so you're training someone, whatever, after you've already gone through the work of drawing together a program and a focus and, you know, all that kind of thing. But then you're also getting all these texts throughout the day, like, oh, hey, can I book a session here? You know, I can imagine that administrative side of it must be quite energy and time consuming, and managing that as well as actually giving the people the energy that you want to perform well as a PT.
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the, on reflection, things that I definitely didn't do very well. But because, yeah, I would literally fill my calendar and I could go back to back, like, with people, just like, you know, one after the other. But then I would get to the end of like the sessions and be like, oh gosh, I've got no time or energy for like the administrative side of things and like keeping track of anything like that. So yeah, that was a really big eye opener as well. So yeah, and that you've got to, starting out, you've got to really get a feel for how much time you want to have for sessions, how much time you need for admin, and how you want to break up your time. And then I was like, oh, cool. And I want to teach classes in between that too.
Yeah. When I first started gymming with Cam, I was essentially looking for parallels in a model I already knew to try and feel more familiar with it. And when he was talking, when I was watching him communicate with people by text and, you know, arranging his kind of calendar and stuff, the parallel I created was to, like, you know, back-to-back meetings when you're in an office environment. And honestly, I just remember thinking, I don't
you
know how
have
you
to
do this,
chair
man, because,
every
like,
meeting
I
too.
hate
You're not
this
just
shit.
an attendee. Like you are the meeting. You can't
Totally
like,
right.
bring
I was
half
just like,
of yourself to the meeting. It's up to you to run the session and also make sure you know you're not just standing there in silence between conversations, and make sure you remember what you did last time. So that energy component, right, is such a key aspect.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're doing back to back, it would almost feel like they're just another one coming in, and then it would be harder to give them that human element or that piece of you, right?
Yeah. But it's like, it's when you start off, like, love it. Like, I love it. It's awesome. Like, and to the point where I can't actually, I'm just getting familiar with like where my energy's at, and like, oh, can I dial this back a little bit? You know, kind of a thing. So I get quite excited, and I'm just like, love people, and like, you know, when you converse or like, you know, have that energy exchange, it's awesome.
That comes back to what you were saying before as well, Ash, about like always learning as far as like your energy output goes. You know, moving to Melbourne, for example, you know, I was trying to continue writing as well as obviously putting time into the podcast, but at the same time, I shifted 3 times in like 4 months or whatever. And suddenly you're hitting this threshold of kind of energy exhaustion that you aren't familiar with at all. And so your normal framework that you'd kind of polished, kind of, you know, all right, I know who I am now, I know what my energy limitations are. It suddenly goes out the window. And you're like, okay, I need to readapt all over again. And then also, unfortunately, we're all aging. So, you know, you have to also counter into the fact that you're getting older, maybe not as resilient, all that kind of thing. And it's a constant learning phase, isn't it? But knowing how to, I think, identify the, I guess, yellow flags in terms of energy burnout before they become red flags is sort of the way I'm starting to view it.
It's like a caution
I like
symbol.
that. I'm like, oh, I'm going to look for some yellow flags.
Yeah, that's sort of the slight trigger before it you know,
So
detonates,
going
you
back
know?
to the strategy and or the lack of strategy when you started. In hindsight, if you were to give advice to a new personal trainer now, what do you think would be some of the key things that they should consider when they're starting out as a personal trainer? Yeah, strategy. Number one,
Definitely
have
to
some sort of
have
strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, and like, and we've got a great, Les Mills put you on a module, and they give you all of the wonderful tools for like building a great calendar and kind of like base for like, you need to do this and this and this, you know, and set aside these times and things like that. So it's not like I didn't really have the tools. I was just like, I want to do the things that I find the easiest, which is dealing with people, and not the administrative side of things. So I guess my advice would be to, even though you've got things that you're really good at, to then also give space and time for the things that perhaps you don't find that you want to do. Like, and something that obviously I don't have to, or don't have to do currently either, is I didn't have to work on getting clients and things like that. But I feel like, and I don't think that's a very comfortable space for a lot of people, is to like, you know, that outreach and trying to like find clients. But literally,
And
it's
the
something you have to
sales
put
side of it,
time
right?
and energy,
Which when you're a
and sort
personal
of
trainer,
things into.
you just want to be able to give value to people, and teach them how to do stuff and make them better. It's the onboarding new clients was definitely the taxing part of it, right? Because there's so many strategies you can have, but I don't know if it's a New Zealand culture thing or what, but we just don't really like having to sell ourselves. And that's where I found at least my strategy when I had initial, you know, consults with people. I'd take them out for a coffee on the first session, have a catch up, get to know them, what they want to achieve. And then the second session would be a free session, and we just do something that's in line with, you know, what they want to achieve. And my hope was always that they would just want to sign up after that. You know, I didn't want to have to go through any sales pitch or anything. So that is a really common thing. I suppose being a group fitness instructor and a gym instructor and stuff, you would have known so many people. So maybe a takeaway from that is, if you're going to be a personal trainer, obviously one, you should be training at the gym where you want to be a personal trainer, but do your best to engage with people. Maybe you train without your headphones on or something, so you're more engaging. Or it's kind of like a takeaway would be to get to know as many people in the gym as possible, and it might make that onboarding or getting clients a little bit easier.
How much of it also stems out, and both of you guys could probably answer this, you know, selling yourself is one thing, but also just talking passively about what you do. So like, I can imagine you guys have had a number of clients trigger from, oh, hey, I'm Ash, oh, hey, Ash, I'm Ryan. Oh, so what do you do, Ash? Oh, I'm actually a personal trainer, Ryan. But I'm actually looking for, do you know what I mean? Do you find that would happen quite often? Like literally just by saying what you did, you would perk up people's ears and they'd be like, oh, I actually want to engage.
You can go first, Ash.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, people love that. They're like, oh, cool, someone I can ask things, you know, straight away. And sometimes they would, yeah, definitely be the most curliest questions, but yeah, I think just a lot of the time you're kind of unsure about what you want to open yourself up to in that space when you're like, I'm a personal trainer, but like literally again you have to just be like, you know, I'm always learning and that kind of a thing, and be prepared for any answer.
Yep.
But
And I found for me,
like,
it would happen,
putting it out there is
outside
massive.
of the gym with, you know, people you would meet, but inside of the gym especially, that would be a massive conversation. If you're like, one example I had, he was a guy who ended up training for me for like 3 years when I was a personal trainer. I was doing deadlifts upstairs, and I didn't know if my back was straight because I was trying to alternating grip and stuff, and I was deadlifting like 200 kg, so it was reasonably heavy. And then I was telling him, you know, about what I do, asking him, oh, is my back straight? Can you watch my next set? And then he said to me, like, oh man, like you should be a personal trainer. And I was like, oh, well, like funnily enough, I am, blah, blah, blah. And then from that conversation, he ended up being a regular client of mine for 3 years. And, or if you give someone a piece of advice when they're doing something, and then they might approach you, I've had this before, months later, oh, I didn't actually realize you're a personal trainer here. Any chance you could help me more? So putting it out there if people ask is one thing, but then also just giving free advice and then they see you in the gym as a personal trainer too, can be passive ways of getting clients, and you're not really selling your service. You're just providing value to people or sparking up conversations with people.
You know, that's just how they relate. They're like, oh, there's Cam. He can tell me about this. Like, you know, kind of a thing. And it's just that kind of
Whereas,
connections
like, if you're
in
a
the brain.
trainer
And you're
who's
like,
just
oh, yeah, I know
in
that,
and out,
that person
only
knows
to
what they're
train
doing.
clients, it can be a lot more difficult to build that client base. I've got a couple of friends who are personal trainers recently started at Taranaki Street, and that was one of my biggest pieces of advice to them. Just be in the gym, talk to people, help people out. Don't think, oh, that's not my job. Like if you're standing there and they ask you, because at Taranaki Street, they've got the group fit timetable. And if you're standing by it and someone says like, oh, can you talk to me, you know, about sprint or something?
Yes.
Don't think like, oh, you know, I'm not a group fit instructor. That's not my job. You know, always putting your hand up to offer advice and offer help. You never know when that could turn around and they might become your client one day.
They might have also just been using that as a way to talk to you. That might have just been I've got a question here, I can, and then boom, they're sort of in, you know, so taking that cue.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's massive if someone talks to you at the gym, right? Like, that's a very intimidating space. But, I think presence is massive on the gym floor because, you know, people are ultimately quite out of their comfort zone. And so if they, I guess, see somebody that does look pretty comfortable on the gym floor, they will naturally try and gravitate towards that person.
I feel like you're a person in the gym, and we always know you're there too,
So,
right? Like you're super charismatic and you're really sociable and stuff. So I feel like people would naturally gravitate towards you as well because you're so welcoming and so, you know, out there.
And a lot of the time, I like to do that because I know how I have felt in the gym before, and like to be honest, like, you know, there's a level at Les Mills Taranaki Street. It's level 3, the main weights gym floor, and like
Scary,
I would never go on
the
that
free
gym floor 'cause I'd
weights
be
and it's
far
the
too
machines and
intimidated.
people are like
you know,
lifting and grunting.
Yeah,
and
I'll be like, oh my
look
gosh,
like they know what they're doing. Yeah.
what does all that stuff do?
Yeah.
And they know I don't belong here, you know, kind of a thing. I literally
So
called it legal
accurate.
testosterone. But you know what? Like, it's massive, and like all the, you know, learnings and things like that. But everyone
What is
is
your
like literally
experience?
doing their own thing at the gym.
It's been interesting going to Doherty's here in Melbourne because, as you say, that intimidation factor, like it's you know, I guess the real high end kind of dedicated. I'm on a level of addiction to bodybuilding kind of personnel as sort of people you can sort of expect there. And like I'm at a level of comfort as a gym goer now, but I remember looking around at one point and thinking, man, this would have been so intimidating to walk into. It's just like kind of next level from certain things, you know. In New Zealand, it was always a good kind of mix at New Zealand, whereas this is kind of like your real sort of dedicated, like hella
That's like
built,
Gold's
kind
Gym.
of peeps.
Yeah,
At the same
Gold's
time, it's
Gym
still
in
got that
Venice
great
was the
vibe.
same.
You just got to
That
feel.
was like the first time I'd felt
What's that?
intimidated in a gym was going to Gold's Gym, because everyone's like freaking jacked and like,
Totally.
I don't know, it's just a scary place. It'd be similar to Dody's. Yeah. And
Yeah,
kind
when
of
you
feel
walk
like
in
you've
and
never
they're like,
even been to
"Who's
the
in my
before?"
gym?"
Oh,
And you're
just
like,
gotta go in the corner over here. Going back to that like level testosterone, it's kind of a interesting segue. What has it been like being a female personal trainer, but then also a female gym goer? What do you think your experience has been like in the gym?
I definitely feel like I've had a lot of growth in that space, and I feel absolutely fine being on that gym floor now. But it's taken a long time for me to get to this space, kind of a thing, and like I guess level of confidence or self-confidence, and the fact that I'd like feel like I know what I'm doing and all that kind of thing. So I try and actively go on that floor and not like avoid it or anything like that, because I do love it when I also see other women on the gym floor there, and because I think just presence, just by being there you kind of give permission for other chicks and things like that to head up into that testosterone stuff.
Is that a part of your personal
and kind of
training too?
be in their
Do you
space
think
as well?
in terms of like empowering women to feel comfortable to do weights and explaining to them, I guess, as well, like all the myths, like you're not going to get big and bulky if you do weights and things like that. Are those kind of conversations with women that you find yourself having too? Yeah.
All the time. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. Everything from like the whole, how fitness and aesthetically how women are sort of taken on board and things like that in terms of like muscle and like, training for weight loss and stuff like that. And just, all of those like, well, not so much myths, but like maybe preconceived thoughts or things, how the way we thought about training in the gym and stuff, and like everything's about weight loss and things like that. And now I'm like, oh no, weights are awesome, strong, help, is amazing. It's about how you feel, not so much like what you look like.
And what would you say to a
those
potential female client who you could see felt that intimidation from the get-go and you were trying to make them immediately feel, comfortable with it? What would sort of be your advice there?
It does depend on what their goals are. So what they're trying to achieve in the gym in general. But if like a generally like self-confidence kind of a person, I just try and say, like, honestly, people are more concerned about what they're doing in the gym than what you're doing in the gym. They are looking at themselves in the mirror, not at you. And that's exactly kind of how you've got to be. You've got to be for you in the gym as well. Like, not worry about what the other people are doing. Just be in your sort of bubble, and whatever you need to do that. Sometimes it's headphones on, music going. Sometimes it's like have a plan of what you're actually doing there. Sometimes it's a buddy.
That's where you can be.
Moral support is
so
nice.
Empowering as a personal trainer by instructing them on how to do certain exercises, right? Because I think a big, intimidating factor is you go up and you see these weird machines and these dumbbells and you don't know how they move. You feel like you're going to look like a dickhead if you jump on it and start moving something around. So I think a large component is empowering them to do that correctly, and they know what the machine does and they feel like they can do it right when they go in by themselves.
Yeah, 100%. And be on that level of testosterone and move all that stuff around, kind of a thing. I would actively try and take people onto, and I think that's the biggest thing for sometimes a personal trainer who does have, a female client or even sometimes a male client, but a lot of the times do find that females don't feel like they have a space on the gym floor just initially, like it's a very intimidating space just to get started, and a lot of the time they wouldn't have even set foot in that space without a personal trainer. Yeah, it's nice to give them that permission to be able to do those things
between them and that weights floor, and it might be the first 2 months the only time they go on the weights floor is when they come to see you. And then a huge win is when they come back and say, oh, I did my first session by myself on the weights floor. And it's a massive win. Like, yeah, the perfect plan might be them doing 5 weight sessions a week, but them doing one thing by themselves is a step to going towards that. And it's a massive deal. And I think as well, you can take that sort of level of confidence outside of the gym too. You know, if they learn about themselves, well, this thing was so scary for me when I started. Maybe at work, me running a meeting, I don't know, is real scary for me. But if I could do that thing in the gym, is there a way I can transfer that learning or that confidence over into another space or another part of my life?
I think you kind of know,
100%.
like, you remember the feeling that you had with the previous thing that you then gotten comfortable with. So, like, all right, whatever your first one is, it could be a job, it could be performing in one way or another. And you remember that first feeling you felt that was like, earth-shatteringly nervous. And then over time you got comfort. And then you found a new thing, the next thing. For me, it was when I first joined the gym. And the earth-shattering nervousness wasn't quite as bad. But I also knew in the back of my mind that, like with that previous thing, I'm not going to feel this way once I get more comfortable with it. So you start to, you apply that kind of familiarity to this new thing. You know that you're just at the early stage of the model, and that if you keep going, you're going to reach that threshold of comfort.
That's so right, because I like to think that I definitely learn things the very hard way. And I like to go the long way about it as well. So, yeah, it does take me a little while, like, even to pick up new things. Like, I'm very clumsy. But I do know now, like, if I stick with it, if I still keep going to those places, like, it does eventually
get better. And, like, I remember the first time, so when I was DJing, the first time I ever played to people in a club, this is back in, I don't actually want to say how far back it is, I'll be showing my age, but it was quite a few years ago. Oh, the terror I felt, the absolute terror I felt getting up there, and like that's, really putting yourself out there. But then the next time I did something like that in a completely different environment, but before I joined the gym, I think I was presenting at a meeting at work or something, and suddenly that familiar feeling came back to me, and then I was like, but I already knew that I'd been through it before, and it does get more comfortable, and that becomes almost like a third person giving you advice. Is that voice of, no, you are going to get more comfortable with this. Just keep going. You already know.
Don't worry, you won't
Exactly.
die.
You might be, as you say, a little bit clumsy, take the long way around, whatever. It doesn't matter, though. Either way, it is going to get there. And you know that now because you've been through, although in a completely different environment, you've been through that experience before.
Yeah, and then I'm always like, our brain is just set up to like keep ourselves safe that way. It's just our central nervous system telling us to be careful and and all that kind of thing. So I'm like, oh yeah, whatever,
I
brain.
think the gym and going on a fitness journey quote can be so beneficial in sort of a holistic manner, because it's so much more than the gym. If it's a confidence thing, it's going to help increase your confidence, but then it's even like giving yourself a goal and some sort of structure, and all those sort of mechanisms can transfer over into your everyday life as well. If you stick to something consistently 4 or 5 days a week for months on end, what can you sort of do with that framework in another area of your life too? So I think the gym and, pursuing something to improve yourself can be so much more than just lifting some weights or like going for a run or going to a class or something. It's such a bigger thing than that.
Yeah, that confidence you get from it.
I often use, because I'm very much like in the gym space and fitness minded now, I will often try and find a way for like fitness life to like metaphorically try and like transition to my like real life.
It's even like
as well,
being in
so
a corporate space now, having the small goals and being dedicated towards something, and like getting up and going to like doing cardio or weights before you go to the gym makes you feel better at work. Like all of those kind of things, it's so transferable, and it affects that sort of office worker life as well?
Sometimes I feel like you don't even realise
Massively.
unless you properly reflect on it as well. So, like, what I mean by that is, during this job that I started about 3 or 4 months ago, there was some real sort of tension and sort of difficult moments that came up. Some challenging moments, sorry, I should say. Tension's not the right word. But essentially, I ended up kind of being like, oh man, this is a little bit challenging. But that was literally the maximus of the tone I had in my own head. Oh, this is a little bit challenging. And then I started thinking, and I went to the thought spiral a little bit, and I remember thinking, man, 4 years ago, my voice wouldn't have been that calm to do with the challenge. It would have been like, Jesus, this is really fucking challenging. Like, how am I going to deal with this? And then I kind of thought, like, it's that confidence I've produced through those other avenues, you know, like for me, sobriety, but also, you know, consistency with going to the gym and stuff like that, that has then meant that this other challenge, which is completely unrelated to those things, has actually suddenly become a lot easier because of the foundations that you've developed. And I think a lot of people might miss that because they don't sort of reflect on how would I have dealt with this if I was the old me versus how am I dealing with this now? All they see is a situation in front of themselves. And I think that's a really valuable thing to do, is go, okay, well, look at how well I've dealt with this now because of those tools that I've given myself, because of that confidence I've developed.
Yeah, you've got to give yourself sometimes like reasons. You like prove it to yourself, right? You're like, oh no, I've already done the work. I know that this is
comparative
actually
to
all
your
good.
level of
I can be
comfort
absolutely.
that you have, right? Or the level of adversity you're willing to suffer through. This might be quite an extreme example, but someone like David Goggins, I don't know if you guys listen to him much, but yeah, he's crazy. He's on like another level, but that's his whole theory as well. It's like, if I can physically push myself through these things, that's really difficult, that's really challenging. When life throws me difficult things, you're more well equipped mentally to be able to overcome them because your level of comfort isn't so small that it becomes, you know, really, really difficult to deal with. If you're used to pushing through challenges and hard stuff, it's going to be easier when that
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't
In his
let that
words,
inner bitch come out or something.
You're a
you know?
resilient motherfucker.
He's got all those famous quotes, but that's not to say that we should all be running ultra marathons in the desert and stuff like that. But I think, if you're willing to get up a
he's
little
kinda
bit
next
earlier
level,
to
isn't
be
he?
able to go to the gym, or like not go home straight away and watch your series because you're going to go to the gym or something. It's those little things that you overcome and push at your comfort zone a little bit can help you so much when life throws you stress. You don't react so heightened like you were talking about, Josh, you know, oh, this is kind of hard. It's not like, oh, this is the end of the world. Oh my God, I can't believe this. Yeah.
You hear your tone. You hear your tone is different, and you know it's different because you remember the previous tone. You're like, man, that's like, you're still acknowledging, oh, this is challenging, but like it's kind of mono in a way. Whereas previously it was like, fuck, how am I going to, you know what I mean? It's all over the place. And that's, it's a good place to be. It's that confidence that you generate from one avenue is a transferable skill.
Have you had many
to
clients
the other avenues
actually
that you live in your
started
life?
with you as, you know, maybe not super confident and a little bit shy, but then over time have come out of their shell and become more confident in themselves, sort of in and outside of the gym? I don't know if that's a hard question to answer straight away, but have you seen many examples of that? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think most people are a bit like that, you know, kind of a thing. Definitely getting started. Like, I always recognise the fact that it's a lot whenever, you know, based on our preconceived ideas of a personal trainer. It's a lot
to
even
say,
reaching
I'm not
out
fit
to
enough
somebody
for a personal trainer.
to ask for the
I've
help
heard that
initially.
multiple times before. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard you say that, yeah. Or rather, clients have said that to you.
And so I think it's like, it's massive initially. There is like a little bit of a you know, a learning relationship to get started, and people will always be a little bit sort of within themselves. And I definitely know that when I've had personal trainers in the past as well, you know, you're kind of like, what is this person going to make me do? But then it's just about like, finding that level of connection and how you guys kind of, what level you're on, to be then able to use that, to be successful, in your training and things as well. And I think that it will only come through like, time together, client and PT. But yeah, definitely. I like to think that, that's part of like what I want people to be able to get out of a session with myself is like to feel empowered and to like, what I'd like to say, take ownership for their workout and being the boss
it's cool to
of
hear
their,
that aspect, because I think if
their work
like
and their
someone
weights
came
and
to the
things like
gym
that.
and saw someone like you or someone else who's like in shape, really fit, really strong, they see that sort of being a linear journey. They're at this point now and that's up here. There's no way that I'm going to get up here. But everyone, including yourself, started at a point where the gym was kind of scary. It's an unknown place. Maybe you don't want to be there. You have no idea what to do. But it's about, like you say, gaining that confidence over time to be able to do those things, right? It's not just you start here and then you go linear straight up to here. There's ups and there's downs and there's things that you have to overcome physically, obviously, but psychologically too. Yeah. And they're like,
yeah, people love the end product, right? Like,
well, that's why they're always
it's easy to
trying to find
focus on
those
that.
shortcuts to it. Social media is littered with it. Like this like shred powder you can get, and you're going to be in shape for 30 days. All those kind of like. It's kind of like the I guess the gym. Yeah, it's the gym version of get-rich-quick schemes, It's like, well, you're sort of applying the wrong methodology right from the get-go.
Yeah, so that's definitely something that, like, I have to take from my fitness journey and being like, oh, Ash, how the fitness journey is like, it's all about that long game, kind of a thing. And I'm like, oh, it's all about that in like real life as well. And like all the little things really matter. But yeah, it's totally, I feel like, and this is like a bit of a thing at the moment because I'm kind of figuring out how I would like to come back into a personal training space eventually. And just, picking up different things along the way in terms of like the fitness industry, and even people coming into the gym. Like I feel like a lot of the times people just want to be told what to do. They don't want to have to think about it. We're at that stage where we've got so many things to think about these days. Like, that's just another thing. And that's where the energy kind of input is required in the gym because
especially when it comes to
a lot
weight
of
training,
thinking
right?
about
you can't
it,
just be
and it's really
blasé and move these things around,
and just that,
without any intent.
Yeah. And it's so different for everyone. Like, the way one person squats might not be the way that you squat. And so like you have to take your own
can
journey
it do it for
as
me,
well.
please?
And people really they're like, I just want to watch it on the screen again. I don't want to think about it, kind of a thing. But it's just trying to encourage people or and trying to give them the, empower them to feel like they can kind of go to those spaces and be like, what am I feeling while I squat? And like, and not just going, okay, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And it's, not just about that. It's kind of like taking on board, like how your relationship with your body and like what your body's telling you it needs and to do and things and then kind of acting on that.
To perceive the gym as being very superficial, very like straightforward, you move this thing up and down or you push this thing forward and back, but it's, how are you feeling on the day? Are you more tired? Have you eaten? Are you stressed? But then it's also, how does this thing, how does it work best for your body? Like, just because someone else does it this way or uses this weight, that isn't necessarily going to be the best thing for you. So it does require a bit of thinking and adapting on the day too. But I think the flip side to that, it was a key learning for me as a personal trainer, and something that I stress to personal trainers is that even though you're passionate about this thing, people coming to you, the vast majority, they're not really going to be that passionate. A lot of the time they don't care if this thing works this muscle group by us doing this, but over time they might develop interest. But I think it's just a good way of managing your expectations is that sometimes people will come to you because they don't want to go by themselves, or they're like not that into it, so they're there to see you for you to do the thing. So over time that might change, but I think as a PT, yeah, it's just important to understand that you are that person for people sometimes, and they might not be as invested or passionate about lifting weights or whatever it is, you know, that you are. Yeah. Or like when you're like, or you're
I'm like, look how cool that is.
Anatomical breakdown of what
Did you see what you just did?
It's cool that you know it, but know your audience sometimes, I guess is what I'm going to say. What about you, Josh? When you started the gym, what was your perception or mindset of it going into it, especially coming to see a personal trainer? You know, what were your, I guess, confirmation biases or thoughts going into it?
I mean, obviously there was that intimidation that sort of went with it, which, you know, we've spoken about before, and that was just always going to be the case, I think. Talking to you beforehand was really helpful, kind of having my expectations managed from the get-go, I think. You know, we've spoken before about, you know, well, encourage people rather to reach out to a PT. You don't even have to, you know, you don't have to get into a weekly model. You just have sort of a preliminary conversation and then sort of see what your step is from there. It was all right, though, because I was going to the one at the bottom of Lambton Quay. And so it was quite, I was working a corporate job at the time, so there was a lot of people there that were like me. They were kind of just trying to sneak in a sneaky workout before lunch kind of thing. But I remember there was this one particular moment that kind of broke the threshold of my perception, and that was there was this guy next to me, and he was doing a bicep curl. I can't remember what he was curling, but it was quite heavy. Like it was intimidating him sort of sitting next to me and doing this. And then he dropped the dumbbell, and it made this really comical noise. I can't repeat it obviously, but like I kind of looked at the dumbbell and then looked at him, and you know when someone's like mid-workout, like they look like they're in Hulk mode. You know, like they look. That's the most intimidating. That's the most intimidating human look, and that really emphasizes the kind of perception that you have that ultimately leads to you feeling intimidated. So he had that look on his face, and then when he dropped the dumbbell, and it made this sort of funny noise, and I kind of looked at the dumbbell and looked at him, like, you know, and then his expression just changed into this like full-on kind of like comical, like, oh shit, bro, that sounded pretty funny, eh? And like I just lost it. Like I just didn't expect that from him. And then when it came out, like it just completely disarmed me. And that's when it was sort of a moment where I realized that, like, you know, that perception you've got, which is in many ways fueled by the kind of body language you see in certain people when they're working out. Once there's an opportunity to decloak that, you kind of realize there's actually a lot of fun behind it all. And that everyone's actually there to have fun and to better themselves for whatever reason. And particularly in New Zealand, you know, New Zealand's got that kind of sense of humour that goes with everything. Like this guy was just obviously all about having a laugh. So I think following that was my breakthrough moment. So I think on a broad level, for those that were looking to go, I guess I would sort of encourage you to be engaging with those around you, you know, because you realise that there's actually a lot of really funny people that are just there to have a good time.
It's understandable that people look serious when they're training too, because right, you're not just going to be doing some squats or bicep curls with a big smile on your face the whole time. But just because people...
I tried it once in front of a mirror just to sort of see, like, and
you're too creepy.
No, you've gone Patrick Bateman on it. Like you look like a serial killer. This isn't working out.
Not be afraid to talk
100%,
to other people in the gym as a member. Obviously, as a personal trainer, we've discussed it's a really good thing to do. But if you're a member, just chat to other people in the gym. Most other people are more than willing to have a conversation, and some people might even be just as nervous or as apprehensive as you. So you reaching out to them might also help them.
I go so far now, actually, because I'm like, man, if people don't say this, then, like, you know, other people won't. But yeah, even when there's just chicks training on the gym floor, I'll be like, how cool is this? Like, there's all ladies on the squat rack right now, you know, kind of a thing. And just like put it out there, and they're like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Like, you know, like this is
And it can
awesome.
break the awkwardness too, 'cause sometimes
yeah,
it's kind of awkward if you're
I will
training in
just put
close
it out there,
proximity
kind
to
of a
someone
thing.
else, and like it's clearly you both know each other's there, but you know you're not going to engage. It doesn't mean you have to have a full-on conversation, but just breaking that awkwardness can help each other feel a lot more comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and know how to break the break the
exactly.
awkwardness, like just a nod, whatever, don't pinch their bottom or anything like that.
Squat
Like, keep it, yeah,
Slap on
nice
the
one, brother.
yeah.
Ash, not to
Now.
take it to a heavy political place or anything, but how did you find it working at that Les Mills? And for background in New Zealand, it was early this year, wasn't it? The Parliament protests, because they sort of overlapped onto Lambton Quay, didn't they? Did you find that was sort of a difficult time to? Because it was just such a bizarre, unique experience for the city. I remember going each morning, and I had to walk down the hill right next to where the Parliament protesters were, and it was like none of them gave me a hard time or anything, but it was just such a bizarre time in the city, wasn't it? Did you find it sort of overlapped into coming and going from the gym a bit?
To be honest, I really try not to. I tried not to even pop down there. I didn't want to. I was actually dealing with a bit of a health issue at the time, and my energy was purely focused on trying to get to get myself well, and I didn't even venture past the end of Lambton Quay. I was like, I don't have time and space for this in my life right now. I can't take it on board in any way, shape or form. But it definitely affected people coming in and out of the gym 100%. And we did actually have to close the gym for a part on that last night when people did move up the road towards Lambton Quay. And it was really not safe for people coming in or out of the gym. So they closed the gym that night for a couple of hours, and then the following morning as well. So that was probably the most that it really affected me in that kind of space, yeah. But, it was definitely so quiet and crazy. Something totally different and new. And we're still, experiencing the effects of, lockdown and things like that down the Lambton Quay end of town.
I've noticed
predominantly
when I've
a
gone down
government
Lambton Quay for a coffee at
end of
lunchtime
town
and
where
stuff,
a lot of people
it's
are working
certainly
at
not
home,
the hustle and bustle that
things like that.
it used to be, right? It's super quiet now, even traffic in and out of town, and it is because of that remote working. Have you noticed that that's had an impact on the gym or trainers' clients or anything
Yeah,
like that? Is there
massive.
less people coming in the doors? No, definitely not. Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't had effect at all. Yeah, 100%. It is so. It's definitely lost something. Perhaps, over that May, June, maybe mainly May. Mainly May was just COVID protests. A lot of that was just. Yeah, and then a lot of people have been unwell with the flu, so the gym has been very quiet, but it's been kind of getting back to it as well. As people kind of start to incorporate all the things back into their life, people going on holidays now and doing social events and that kind of a thing, and so it's time to bring all the other things that we do in life back to sort of a more normal sort of stance, and just what sort of capacity that is at right now. It's just building back really, and there has been there's just been school holidays as well, and that affects at this end of town as well, believe it or not. So, yeah, probably from next week onwards, we probably look at a little bit more attendance numbers being up, but it's definitely affected, you know, influx of attendees, new members, people that are leaving. You know, there's a bit of an exodus out from old New Zealand at
Yeah, I
the
did
moment.
see that. I left at the start of April, so I'm obviously one of those. But I also saw some broader. Yeah.
You started it!
Trendsetter, eh? But I did see, like, there was some sort of high-level numbers I saw, and it looked like there was a bit of a hemorrhage going on. And at the same time, I think New Zealand's pool hasn't sort of triggered off yet. I anticipate that both New Zealand and Australia, probably more so Australia, and then New Zealand will sort of follow, will start to see an influx once Europe goes back into winter. So what's that, like, kind of around November?
Yeah.
I would hope so anyway. Like, I could imagine how much that's having an impact. I've spoken to a few people there who have said that. Have you found it's impacted, I guess, the amount of talent as well, in terms of, like, employees that you can take on board and stuff? I know in the corporate realm it's definitely impacted that. But as far as the gyms and stuff go, it's still floating okay?
I don't really employ anyone.
You haven't noticed on the sort of broader level? Like,
Yeah, we. I don't deal with like, you know, bringing people on board or anything like that. And to be honest, like, we've only just been put into probably a space where you feel like you can take more group fitness instructors on board. Like, we've actually got classes and gyms open and things like that to be able to do those things. But yeah, this is a great place to work. There's never going to be people that, you know. Yeah. So I think Yeah. The listeners is
so what's on the cards
that would like to,
coming
and
up
quality
for you,
people.
Ash? What does the future, like the rest of this year, look like for you? Are you working towards anything in particular, either personally or professionally?
Yeah, so I guess the past 6 months of my personal journey, I've taken on trying to look after myself better financially, physically, career-wise, and just taking on different processes that I can and skills from this sales process. And a lot of that is just about, you know, being a little more direct and things about what I want and owning up to that. And so basically I am going to figure out where I want to take my personal training sort of offerings now with this new role that I have, and what that would look like in terms of doing like PT, group fitness, and sales all at the same time. I'm definitely taking on a new class at the moment at the gym, so that's occupying my brain space a little bit. And hopefully, ultimately, like, what I love is and the reason I left university was I love dealing with people, and I am really, really passionate about movement and getting people to be moving. And I know, again, like, even in a gym environment, group environment, that's a very powerful thing. So my thing that I'm really passionate about is group fitness, and I would love to have like a group fitness manager role in a gym in some capacity. And then obviously group fitness instructors are still people too, and maybe about how I can do some part-time personal training.
It sounds
to
like
help
you got
both
a
instructors,
few different ideas spinning around. I think it's really cool to see how
starting their journey,
how willing you are to sort of adapt your strategy as well. I think that's been quite a evident thing throughout your time, especially within the gym environment, is that you haven't just started doing one thing and just stuck to that. You know, you've kind of done it all, and you're slowly refining and adapting to what works best for you, but also what you're best at too, because you're really, really good with people and managing groups of people and really empowering people as well. So it's clear to see that, yeah, you're following your passion, but you're also following a really good skill of yours too, and you're not willing just to do the same thing for, you know, the rest of your time.
Yeah, I think to be honest, I probably, and it still sort of plays on that confidence thing. Is like sometimes you don't feel confident enough to kind of do your own thing either, and you have to be like actually like what am I good at, like, and what are my strengths, and what do I want to be able to achieve? And you're like, oh well, it's okay to like
tall
be
poppy
honest
syndrome,
with those
right?
things, because sometimes
Yeah.
for me it's like you feel a bit weird,
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
Kiwis, like
yeah.
I'm good at this, or like yeah, you're like, no, you are good at that stuff, it's all good. And just being like, actually no, I am good in this space, and like and this
I'm
is
actually aiming
what
at
I
something.
want to
Like,
do.
oh,
Even
shit.
that's a bit weird to be able to say as well, I have these goals, and putting that out to the universe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which in the past has been scary for me to even say as well, like, because you don't want to put it out there just in case it doesn't happen or something like that.
And it's all about
and
how you put it out there, right? There's a big
it's
difference
definitely,
between
like,
being
that's where my
confident
head is
versus
going
being
towards at the
arrogant,
moment.
and you're just talking
and
never actually do anything. Right? I think it's a very important thing to talk about what you want to achieve and what you want to aim at. And then the second part is obviously backing it up and doing the thing. But you talking about it can actually help materialize it more and more, because you get people's ideas, you're chucking it out to the universe. There's a bit of accountability there too. So as much as it can feel awkward, or, like you're being a bit arrogant or cocky or whatever, saying that you're good at this or you want to do this, I think it's more often than not super important to do it.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
love conversations at the moment. Apart, like, I've just actually moved back into town. And so being a little closer
Yeah.
to the city, and even just like walking in this morning, I was like, oh, that's right, I love people.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love being around this stuff. Like, I've spent like the last 9 months or something living in Island Bay on a hill, which has been great.
Be a bit
like,
isolating,
love
especially
it.
when you're an
But I was like,
extrovert
oh
and
yay,
like you say,
I think I'm
love
ready to
being
get
around
back
people,
into the
right?
swing of things now. Yeah, exactly. So just getting back in
terms
touch
of the
with that has
podcast,
been
we
awesome.
obviously are keeping, continuing.
What about you
on
guys?
to
What's
step
next
it up
for you?
each time. I feel like using this Riverside like we're using now, and like getting a mic, so when we get good people on like you, we can give that to you. There's a big focus on just continuing to do this and making it more and more frequent. In terms of me personally, obviously I've still got all my gym related goals, like wanting to get stronger and bigger all the time. It's probably an endless, I don't know, chasing the dragon in a sense, that's always the ever present goal. But then, I've been really enjoying, my time at Zero, and, focusing on progression there as well, and
That's
thinking
good.
about what I want to do next and how I can continue to progress in that space as well. I know Josh moving to Melbourne has got a lot of different things on his plate right now, and different things that you're aiming at.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, with the podcast, it's continuing to step it up and continue to develop my writing craft, which has felt like it's sort of had to take a bit of a backseat just while I get other things set up. I've essentially had to set up an apartment from scratch, which has been awesome, but like, it's just, I think I sort of alluded to it earlier, like the energy kind of required. I think my main goal that's sort of overshadowing all others at the moment is just continuing to kind of ease into things until I feel fully settled. And then there's a bit of travelling I want to engage probably towards the end of this year, moving into next year. But yeah, it's coming along nicely. And Melbourne's great. Like, it's obviously there's been some challenges, as there always is going to be with a move like that. But the city itself is awesome. Like, just the vibe here is electric. And I've sort of asked a few people, like, how's it feeling now? Because they went through such an aggressive lockdown. Just insanely long, eh? And everyone that's I've spoken to about it has been like, oh man, it was tough. It was really, really tough. But also just the way that I've sort of described where the city's at now and getting back on its feet and stuff, it seems like it's in a really good place. I think Australia's been really vocal about trying to pull that tourism in as well. I'm not sure if New Zealand's now engaging that. When I left in April, it felt like it wasn't quite out there yet because the borders hadn't fully open. But there's been a lot of kind of energy from Tourism Australia into Australia, coming to Victoria and that kind of thing. And as I said, I reckon towards the end of the year.
Oh, I've seen the ads.
Yeah, towards the end of the year, I think that once Europe goes back in the winter, I reckon you'll start to see things really pop off. But yeah, that'll be me for the foreseeable, I think. And just continue to feel settled. But it's moving at a great pace, so that's all you can really ask for.
We
know your
obviously
limits.
really
and,
appreciated having you
when
on
you need to, and just
today,
keep
Ash.
at it.
It's been super insightful to get to know you a bit more. Obviously, we've known each other for a while, but haven't really had a big conversation like this. So I've found it, I've personally found it super insightful, and no doubt some of the things that we've chatted about would
I love
help new
conversations.
gym members, but also new personal trainers as well. So, I just want to say we really appreciated having you on. We managed to overcome the slight technical difficulties at the beginning. That was fun. That's all right.
Yeah, thanks for sorting
I thought
it
that was
out.
actually quite smooth.
And thanks for bearing with this
I think we
webcam.
put it together really smoothly. Yeah, I think it was and a good. We've sort of, as Cam said, we entered that slightly new model, but like it was just it didn't feel like too much of a stereo. I think we put it together nice and smoothly. So and you were a big part of it. So yeah,
I think
thanks
you
for
did
coming on
good
the show.
too. Oh well, thanks heaps, Ash.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, my first time.
What should we talk about? Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, what was the question
Really
again?
well.
Yeah, you guys can edit that out. Yeah.
I'm rambling.
I'll stop the recording now, but if you want to